All right, good morning everyone. It's Tuesday morning and this is like my happiest. It makes me so happy to say that. Tuesday morning, I'm out in my wash bay, which I haven't been out here in a little while, and I'm just gonna bring the camera around and wash the Corvette, talk to you about the finishing, or I guess this would be wrapping up the series of the Corvette paint correction and protection series. Talk to you about what's going on, what I'm thinking, and a lot of the stuff that I talk about inside the hex. I like to keep everybody up to date, even if you're not, not inside there. But the plan today here is to get the car washed after the first coating, after the putting the CSL and XO on the car, and then get a layer of bead maker on it. We'll talk a little bit about that, and just get the pollen off the car. The first wash is always fun. I also got a new windshield, so we're going to put on some Wolf's paint, or I'm sorry, Wolf's Nano Glass sealant, which I'll have in the store here shortly. Should be, I think it's headed for Miami, any day here, so we should have it here in a few days. But I also had to get a new bottle of Pearl. I've run out of Pearl. I was using hyper dressing on my tires the last few weeks. I really don't need to clean the wheels. I haven't driven the car much. It's still basically undrivable, which is frustrating. Billy Boat said they'd send the headers this week. And then I'm still likely going to have to do some adjustment to the steering column, and then also probably put a flat spot on the headers. But we'll talk about all that stuff as we get going here. Sorry, the charger for the leaf blower is kind of loud. Man, I didn't grab a bottle, the new bottle. We sold out of them so quickly. I think we have 600 of them now, so we do have quite a few of them available. So let's get our soap prepped. The other thing I'm going to do here after I get the soap prepped is I finally have a gun of my own. This is the part that I'm waiting for that should be here this week, and then you'll hear me talking a lot more about the new Obsessed Garage version of the gun. A lot of people that have ordered this are waiting on this piece. Maybe by the time you see this video, it'll be up and ready. But I also didn't have the nozzles, and so I need a 6.0 nozzle. And so the way I set up my pressure washer is the way I'm setting up my system is to have two nozzles. One is a 25 degree and one is a 40 degree. So I have one of each here. So the 25 degree, and you can always tell it says 2506. So the 25 is the pattern, and the 6, the 06, is the orifice size, the size of the hole. So that'll just sit here in the cabinet and be ready for when I need it. But this is number one, prototype number one, the Obsessed Garage version of the nameplate here. Just super stout, really legit. Notice there's no bulk here, so I'm going to go install it and set it up on our hose. Also going to call my buddies at MTM, see if they can make me a custom Cobra Jet, which is a pressure flex hose. I really don't like the lightweight Mosmatic that I've been testing for so long. You heard me complaining about it a lot, but it's time for me to get something else. The funny part is I always end up all the hand-me-downs. So this is an Adams soap bottle that got crushed from from shipping, and so I've got a hand-me-down bottle that was leaking. I'm going to transfer it over here to the other bottle. Yeah, I should probably just do that now. This is a Griot's little spout. Kind of works. So the Corvette's nearing finish, but the detailing part is finished with the exception of the glass. I do need to clean up the Alcantara in the interior. I stopped by the dealership. They say they can get me the passenger door card and the other piece for the center console. So I'll have the car really dialed in, interior wise. So we should be good there. Once I get the headers fixed, I talked with Jeremy from Faster Proms about maybe doing a port and polish on the supercharger, doing a different throttle body, and doing a couple other things to the car. I don't know if I'm gonna have the time to do that. We'll see. He also is super busy, so the likelihood of us getting that done is not high.
But I don't know, everybody's talking about how you need to tune with the intake and the exhaust, but the car seems to be running just fine without it. I'm sure you can extract more power. I'm making a huge mess here, but I don't really care about that. The car's plenty powerful enough. It's such an interesting culture. Like, Jeremy was programmed, he's so accustomed to people trying to get us to squeeze as much horsepower for as little money as possible. And I want it to be drivable and comfortable and usable, not, I don't care about trying to squeeze extra horsepower and then having a car that's no fun to drive. So it's just it's a completely different mindset than what I'm used to, with Porsche or BMW, or I guess BMW has that too, especially now that all the cars are turbo, or the vast majority of them are turbo driven cars, but I don't live my life that way. I'm not trying to drive around and try to have to get E85. It's just not of interest to me. I don't want to have to go drive 30 miles to go to a darn gas station to get E85 and have my car run like crap all the time just to try to squeeze an extra couple of horsepower out of it. I'd rather have it be more drivable, especially something like the Z06 that already has so much freaking horsepower. I don't feel like I need any more. So the paint correction on this car, if you didn't watch the series, was, man, pretty rough. I mean, now that I know, you just 3-inch the whole car, or almost all of the car. So you just go into it knowing that you're going to use a 3-inch polisher on pretty much the whole darn thing. Then you know what to expect. It never really occurred to me until you jump in and start doing it. But the result is good. I mean, the car looks good. The paint is in good condition. Again, I'm not sure if some of it was painted or not. Some people have told me that it was hit a wall at Road Atlanta, but whoever fixed the car, if it was fixed, did a gosh darn amazing job, because it's really hard to tell if there was any damage to it. The paint looks good. Corvettes have some kind of runny spots anyway, so it's not simple to tell whether a panel was painted or not. And like I said, again, I don't know that I really care all that much. So the new bottles, like I said, are here. Rusty and I have been working on a quick disconnect for this, so we don't have to screw and unscrew this all the time. So I'm going to do the cheater method here today, where I foam the wheels, because again, this car is carbon ceramics. So I'll just foam the wheels real quickly and just kind of superficially clean them at the end. So I'll do that at times when I am cleaning carbon ceramics, because they don't, especially if I've driven the car over 50 miles an hour, just driving it around town here. I don't really need to do a deep cleaning to the wheels. Okay, let's get our gun connected. And I also want to measure for hose. I forget what length I need specifically for the wash bay here. So if you're not familiar with my pressure washer setup, this is a Krensla K165 STS they no longer make. This is a 20 millimeter pump, meaning the plungers, if you will, or the pistons that are engaged to create pressure from the wobble plate. They're 20 millimeters, so this is a really stout, this is a 23 amp pump. I have a dedicated 30 amp service. I'm going to be doing some revamping to the wash bay here soon, so I do want to clean up some of this over here. I'll probably be doing a more stout, larger solution. I tend to blow through these filters a little quicker. I don't use them as often out here because the water's pretty decent quality. But the concept here would be you can bypass the deionized water. This is what eventually became, the Prevo solution that I use now, but this is just copper ProPress stuff, and then I have a hose. So if you're going to do a boom pole in your garage, it's suggested that you come out of the pressure washer with a flex line. So you come out flex. I have a PVC conduit that runs up through the ceiling, and then I run it over to the boom pole. That way you could pull the line through in 10 years when it, if it wears out, and you don't have to worry about the vibration of this on and off, because a pressure washer hose is designed for that, versus trying to hard plumb it with stainless or copper or something like that. Running 1,000 or 2,000 psi through the line, doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, it runs out to my Mosmatic boom pole. Mine's a 7-foot 2-inch pole, I believe. No, 6 foot. I think mine's 6'4". I wish it was 7'2" because the Raptor's kind of big. So here's the boom pole. The hose goes on right through the top of it, and then you run down to the end of the line here. And so what I want to measure is the distance from where the hose hangs down to the floor, and then add 3 feet. So let's get a quick measurement of that. So you could hang a string if you wanted to. I'm just gonna measure from ground to where it is here. What's that, 108, 9 feet 6. So I want plus 3 feet. So I want a 9 foot 6, I want a 12 foot 6 inch hose. So that's what I need to make. I need it to be a 12 foot 6. This I believe is 12, so another 6 inches would make the hose just barely touch the ground when it's sitting in my little holder over here. But I think that's a good height. So let's swap out our gun. All right, so here's the setup. This is what I've been using. So this is the original wand connected to prototype number 2. It might be number 2. So this is prototype number 1 of our 3/8 coupler, and then prototype number 2 of the gun. And so I'm gonna just pull this whole assembly off. Yeah, and actually the new coupler is actually a little bit more stout. So even out here, very little corrosion or issues. Again, I haven't taken this off at all. I may need to change this out because the plug is different. Let's see. We did change the prototype of this, or change how this connects. So I don't know if this is gonna fit. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's still good. So we made this universal, so this will fit on any pressure washer coupler rather than just have it proprietary to Mosmatic. And so the shorter version of this is that version has a longer tip, but the problem is then that wouldn't fit in like MTM fittings and stuff like that. So we're good. So this should work, no problem. Theoretically, it won't leak. And so the main difference here, notice the wand between what I had here and here. So the wand, this wand has a much different tip type. So you can see the old version where we had a quick disconnect behind this rubber fitting, not very serviceable. You'd have to pull this back behind this nut in order to change the coupler out. The coupler is a Chinese made, just not as stout, and then you have a tip that is sticking out, and so I could hit the fender of the car. So the concept was to take and recess our tip and put the coupler behind, so it's much easier to change this out between short and long gun. And so this nozzle assembly has a integrated nozzle that's built in, and so much cleaner, simpler design. And if I whack my fender, I'm going to hit rubber, not metal or a plastic tip. And then when I want to switch to do my wheels, I just simply swap like so, like that. Pretty cool. So that's the setup. It's now available. Of course, we have a swivel here. Right now it's swiveling inside the coupler, but as soon as you put it under pressure, this will stay tight, and then the gun swivels, and so we don't end up with any binding. So just a really cool design and way to set this up. I decided here, notice there's a little gap here. Everybody's gonna start yelling and freaking out. I decided to do NPT threads. NPT is diminishing. So as it gets further in, it diminishes, so it grabs. These fittings are really expensive, and I wanna be able to take these fittings and put them on all types of pressure washer guns. And so if I order more quantity, I can keep the cost down more. They're still like $40 or something like that, versus $8 or $6 from from MTM or General Pump or something like that. The MTM ones I have in my store. And so the original, this was again, I think iteration number 2 of the prototype. We did equal length threads. The other problem with equal length threads is it has to have a thread locker on it, otherwise those type of threads will leak. It won't sit properly. And so I made this choice to go with NPT. There's a little gap so that we have more universality. It saved
probably 20 bucks a fitting, because now I can order in thousands rather than just in hundreds. And so that's, you know, one decision I made. You know, it's kind of like you're investing your money. I used to have to make a decision. You know, what mutual fund am I going to buy? Is it perfect? I don't know. And so you have to make a decision, a call. The other thing you'll notice is this top here, this little top section, there's a little bit of brass there. In order for us to do that, you know, this gun is designed and made by Suttner to Mosmatic spec. The Suttner and Mosmatic families who have owned the companies have known each other for like 100 years, something crazy like that. And so to redesign this gun, we would have had to have completely changed production, change the assembly. We couldn't just take this because of how this is made here. We couldn't just take the Suttner full stainless version and just adapt it. That would have it would have been the same whether we completely redesigned this or completely redesigned the inlet. I made the decision, you know, the gun is already like 150 bucks or something like that, and so to make it 250, I just don't think it was worth it. I make all these decisions based on what I want, and I knew that I want this to be stainless, but it's not. You know, is it worth another 100 bucks? I'll probably, maybe that'll be version 5.0 of this gun in the future. If we're selling, you know, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of these instead of just thousands of them, then, you know, maybe we'll do something like that. But anyway, I like to keep you in the loop of what I'm thinking and why I'm choosing things. Let's get our bucket set up here, and then we'll get to talking about the car, I guess, if anybody cares. So, yeah, the goofy ultimate hose nozzle. I really like it. I think it works well. And look at the pattern's cool. I just like, it has lots of adjustability, the patterns. It turns off at total stop here at the end, it turns off. But it will also turn off at the opposite end. So you can turn it off either way. It gives me just enough so I can agitate my soap on the other side. But you know, when you're setting up your bucket filler, the reason why you want to put your hose bib, and I hopefully have a conversation with Pryor here real soon about allowing me to sell their hose bibs, and try to explain that, you know, don't be worried about plumbers in your local distribution. A rising tide raises all ships. If I'm selling it and talking about it, then people start asking about it. It spreads like wildfire. And so if I start talking about it, then of course other copiers will start talking about it, and then you know, it turns into a product that becomes really viable for lots of areas. And so instead of worrying about local distribution getting angry, it would, I think, benefit all if another person is able to talk about it. I think, you know, a lot of companies get afraid that I'm just doing this online, and I'm clearly going to put in a lot more effort to sell the product. I think most of you have heard about it because I don't even remember where I found it. I think I found it just searching around for the ultimate hose bib, you know, one of my 7 p.m. to midnight research sessions, and I don't think anybody turned me on to this. I was looking for it when I was building the wash bay. It's just so much more stout. This is the quarter turn version. So I want to have a bunch of different. They have a bunch of different ones. They also have hot and cold ones for you guys that have that. All right, so let's rinse the car with our new gun. So another thing that we're working on is, again, so you take the bottle and you screw it in real gently because the plastic on metal. And so I'd like to have, the problem is that it adds like 1.5 inches of height. And so I don't know how popular it will be, but we're gonna make a few of them and see, you know, get them out in the wild. But they're also going to be really expensive because we're only going to make a few of them. But man, mine's really beat up. I really should listen and get a stainless screw and add that to the modification list. But having the ability to take the foam cannon and put a cap on it, especially since now a lot of us have multiple bottles for doing wheels and versus the paint or the rest of the car, I think, you know, makes a lot of sense to have the ability to quick connect it. Another idea that occurred to me is should probably I've been spending a lot of time working on air compressors and silencing them, and finding companies that make that sort of thing. It would be kind of neat to do it with Oh yeah, that's nice. Kind of need to do that with a pressure washer as well. Oh, so much more enjoyable to wash versus, see, there's nothing on the windshield, but yet the paint, the wheels, the tires, everything is just nice and clean. Or not clean, but nice and coated, and water behavior and stuff just doesn't stick as much. Yeah, love it. Now it makes it fun to wash. You know, so we do all this work so that it makes it easier to maintain the car. So I've mentioned this a lot, but when I have a car with carbon ceramics, a lot of times I'll blow them out like I'm doing here. That gets all the dust, the brake dust out of it. Like it doesn't give you conventional brake dust, but there's still particles and dust that kind of tend to make some squeak. And so blowing it out with the pressure washers is helpful. Plus, then I can just do a superficial cleaning. And so every fourth wash, I'll get in with the clean the barrels and all of that. But I only feel the need to do it every once in a while on my GT3 and now on this car. My M3 had, my F80 M3 had carbon ceramic as well. Yeah, that's real nice. All right, let's switch to foam cannon. Let's get it all soaped up here, and then we'll have a chat about what's going on. I know I've talked about this, but I've decided, Adam's soap is the soap. So I've veered from it so many darn times. I just keep coming back to it. It's just a great version. It smells good. There's not a bad thing about it. pH neutral, no residue left behind. Foams well. Does lots of or gets lots of suds in the bucket as well. Super slick. The one thing I haven't tried, so I tried Ultra Foam, but not Mega Foam, and I know a lot of people have said that they like the Mega Foam more, but I haven't tried that yet. That's one of the funny things that people give me a hard time about, is that, well, you're not obsessed if you haven't tried everything. So, well, I can't. There's too much stuff. I'm obsessed with a process, and the process has product. And I like products, and I like to try different products, but I'm not obsessed with flip-flopping around all the time. At some point, you got to wash your darn car. You got to get the job done. And I'm going to continue to chase having a really great process that may or may not involve having the very best of every product at every moment in time, because the best is very subjective. So the one thing I feel like I've earned in this world is the ability to trust my gut. My gut tends to lead me down the right path. And so when I look at products, I can usually make an assessment. Now, I'm not always right, but it's the probability is quite high from the amount of testing and the places I've visited and people I've learned from and the trial and error that I've gone through myself. So, that's one of the things. So, I tend to speak right from my head to my lips. I do think about what I say at times, but sometimes I just speak words, and sometimes the words, people understand them, and sometimes they don't. It always makes sense to me, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to others. But when I was at Mobile Tech, and I happened to walk by the Turtle Wax booth, and of course every guy on YouTube is excited about Turtle Wax, and I'm not. Not because I'm being stubborn, but because they're making products that I don't think really need to exist and will probably go away. In that, why do I need a spray silicon dioxide sealant when I have a car with a far superior coating? That's why I just want something to top my coating occasionally. That's where I'm going to use some sort of very simple drying aid, like a bead maker, or ECH2O or C2V3 or something like that just gets the job done. Or I want to add a little bit of a sacrificial layer. Hopefully it looks good. That's for me, that's the key requisite, because the protection's already here. So what do I give a crap how long it lasts? I'm going to wash the car every couple of weeks. So why the heck does it matter? And so The reason why I don't give a crap about what Turtle Wax is doing, because they're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. They're just pandering to stupid. People looking for the holy grail, the magic pill, the diet pill of the gosh darn car washing area, which is to put silicon dioxide all over the car. And that's the diet pill. That's how you stay protected and your water beads, and I can wash it with all-purpose cleaner. It's just stupid. You don't need that. So, I think about, am I just being a stubborn, dumb old man, or is there some validity to this? If the spraying something on the paint is not going to do the same thing as a resin-delivered, solvent-based, heavy-duty coating, like on this car, a G-Technic CSL topped with another silicon dioxide topper, which is a little more hydrophobic in EXO. Or take your pick, Ceramic Pro or IGL or Modesta or Geon. Take your pick, Kamikaze. You can keep going on and on. Every single one of those is superior to some spray in a bottle. It's just a copy of everybody else's spray in a bottle. So, there's some basic principles of how silicon dioxide is delivered in a water-delivered system. So you can talk all you want about being so excited at that value for the money. I don't want value. I want it to, works well for the money. Forget the money part, just have it work well. And if it works well, you don't need a lot of it, and then the money doesn't matter. So even if something costs you $80, if you only have to use it once every 2 years, then by proxy, it's pretty cheap. So just stop this nonsense. That's when I say I trust my gut, and I say things like Turtle Wax is goofy and I don't give a crap. I don't need to try some goofy product like that. That's what I'm talking about. There's no point. I don't need protection. I don't need to wash it with Dawn or all-purpose cleaner. Why? I've got a coating on the car, or I've got wax on the car. And I guess you could argue that, well, a spray silicon dioxide sealant lasts longer. But lasts longer at doing what? Lasts longer at changing the contact angle of water? I don't know. I'd have to dig into the chemistry. I do want to get out to B&B. I should call Chris from B&B and get on the schedule. Go out and see what Adams is doing with coatings. But it's not as simple as just mixing up some silicon dioxide and water, and you get good water behavior. And so now you've got this amazing level of protection. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. So give up that pipe dream, because it ain't gonna happen. I'm telling you, mark my words. It ain't gonna happen. Where you get the same thing from water-delivered silicon dioxide. It just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. I know you're looking for the diet pill, but there's no substitute for, you gotta eat properly and exercise. So in other words, you gotta polish the paint and you've gotta coat it properly. Then the product you put on it at the end is less important. Gosh, having this car corrected makes it so much easier to wash. It's so good. So that's why I scoff at the idea that why is everybody so excited about something just because it's cheap? Well, who cares if it's cheap if it doesn't need to exist? That's my argument. But do what you want. I don't freaking care. Just don't get all bent out of shape when I make comments like that. I guess maybe I shouldn't get all bent out of shape when you make comments back to me. So, yeah. Right back at me. So I also talked about a possibility of doing like a, I don't want to call it a summit, but a get-together of some YouTube dudes who are really into this like I am. Maybe a couple other dudes that are really into it like I am. I think that could be really cool. Mainly just for the conversation, and if we can capture it for everybody on video. So I would need to have people come to it that aren't worried about their image. That it would be more of a authentic discussion on product, process,
detailing, maintaining cars, you know, and I think that could be really cool. But we'll see. I'll invite a bunch of people. I got to get the other side of the garage done so that I can do it. I'm sure, you know, some of my buddies will be in, like Pan will be in, as long as I can convince them to get on a plane. It'd be great if I could get Jim White to step away and come out from the UK. I really want to meet John, the Forensic Detailing channel. That's one of my favorite channels. And then, you know, a bunch of them. Anybody who's down. I don't think I could convince. Phil's never on camera. You know, Auto Fanatic Phil. So I don't know if I could convince him to come. I'll give him a call and ask him. But I think I have the place to do it, at least for a little while until the other half of HQ. So again, I'm taking over the other half of the building. And so my thought process there, this was actually Kyle from Wax Mode's idea of, hey, you know, it'd be kind of cool to get people together. And so I said, well, what if I did it? What if I hosted it? First of all, would anybody come? You know, I'm not the nicest guy in the world. Would anybody come? At least I'm not perceived to be the nicest guy in the world. I promise, I'm pretty nice. I just don't take any bull crap from goofs, especially not on my own frickin' platform. But everybody wants Larry to come, and I don't. Larry doesn't have to do those kind of things. You know, the dude has so much charisma. Forget the detailing part. When he walks into a room, there's just something, I don't even know how to explain it. Certain people have that. You know, Adam LZ has that. Garrett, Cletus McFarland. You know, some people are just nice and relatable, but others just have something. You know, I don't have that, but some people have that, have something. I think what I have is the ability to be as, you know, overtly authentic as possible. And that's the only reason I'm able to kind of make it. You know, Ed Bullion has that kind of, he walks in a room, there's just something special. And so Larry has that, so he doesn't need to come out to goofy gatherings of YouTubers. But yeah, I'll ask him. Kevin Brown doesn't like me, so that's not happening. So you can cancel that idea. A lot of people didn't like me in the past in detailing as well, but I think some are coming around. I didn't do anything, just like maybe causing some disruption. I don't know. I think it would be neat. And I've also thought about, you know, if I could do it, I'd probably be better served to do it in like different groups. Because if you have 20 people there, no one's going to get a word in, and the dominant personalities are going to dominate, and you probably won't get to hear from some people that you'll want to hear from or get to know. You know, I don't know who would be dominant, but I think it's something that could be cool. So I'm going to put it together and see if we can make it work. You know, some people probably won't want to come, that's fine. But who wouldn't want to come to Florida in like March or April? It makes it so much better to clean the car. Let's rinse it. I'm supposed to be talking about this car. So if you didn't watch the series, it says Crystal Serum Light, EXO. The wheels have Ultra on them. I just wanted to try it out. Again, you can't buy Ultra. I'm technically an accredited installer because I've done the training. But I don't meet the requisite because I don't have a business where I'm doing installs. But Eric will give me a bottle if I need it for something. But I don't want to do that often. So, I mean, then I don't get to test out the stuff that I'm suggesting you buy. Oh, that makes it so fun. Cleans easier. I'll be able to just blow the whole car off. So it'll be 95% dry before I even touch anything. Just got to deal with the windshield here in a minute. All right, before I do anything else, I want to auto scrub the new windshield. And the smart thing to do is to pop this. I've also found on this car, there really isn't any need to do any kind of engine bay dressing. There's really not a lot of plastics. The only plastics I've coated, so there's not really any need for that. But after spending some time under the engine, in the engine bay, you could very easily treat it the same. You'll hose it down like I normally do. taking this cowl out, cleaning it, deep cleaning it with number 39, Meguiar's number 39 vinyl and rubber, deep vinyl and rubber cleaner, man, really made a huge difference. So if you're gonna do any kind of windshield prep and you want your coating or your sealant or whatever you're using, if you want it to stay, you've got to do some prep. You want to make sure it's really clean, devoid of any junk, otherwise you're going to be really disappointed in any product that you use. Just like the paint. You know, your coating is going to fail rather quickly. Your wax won't stick if you don't do it right, if you don't do all the prep work ahead of time. It's the same argument for using, you know, if you're going to use a water-delivered silicon dioxide spray sealant, then same thing. The prep work is the key. That's why I keep railing against this concept of having pro-only coatings. And we should have pro-only polishes, pro-only polishers. That would make a whole lot more sense, although I don't think there should be pro-only anything. In fact, many enthusiasts I know are higher level than many pros that I've met. So pro is a title you give yourself. So just like CEO. CEO. Oh my word. Why am I picking so many fights here today? If you own a detailing company, I tell you right now, you're not a CEO. Just drop that title. Don't call yourself a CEO. Notice we already have less surface tension just by cleaning it up. Now the fun part is to just blow drying this off and I get the car 90% dry without having to touch it. So this will be a little bit different, and I want to get the car dried, but I don't want to hit the windshield because I'm going to need to put the, it'll be fine if I get a little overspray because I'm going to clean it down with alcohol, but this is my first application, so I'll put a little bit more product on. So again, on this step here, this bead maker step, doesn't really matter all that much because the coating is doing all the work. This just helps make it look a little bit better. The other thing I was thinking about is, for those of you who tend to end up with static issues, you know, I don't have those issues here where I am, but I've seen it now where I didn't understand what the heck people were talking about, but in some climates, some areas where maybe there isn't as much humidity, you end up with kind of a static buildup. Bead maker tends to make things static-y, if you will, and then you can end up with more dust, I guess. I don't know. I guess that's what's happening. You also have to make sure that you're drying it. You don't want to leave it smeared around. You have to get it dry. So yeah, you know, Obsessed Garage, we're doing our thing, man. It's doing well. A lot of things I'm working on now is trying to figure out the situation with twin bush lifts. You know, how am I going to fix that? If you're not familiar, there's just importing of Chinese goods has become really problematic because of the input duties and tariffs and taxes and costs. And so they want to sell their lift at a really competitive price. The problem is that means there's no room for me as the retailer, if you will. But if there's no room for me, then there's no room for me to put in all the work and do all the marketing that I'm doing. Again, not all the marketing, but all the marketing that I'm doing. And so I need to find a lift company that is willing to figure that out with me. So I have to talk to Benpack, Rotary, Nussbaum, and anytime these things happen, you know, people you're like, well, what was wrong with the one before? I said, well, nothing, I like it. But every time this has happened, I always get nervous. I'm like, well, you know, I'm never going to find as good of an option. And then every time this has happened, it's always led me to discover something that I like more. Like like when Ely pulled out all distribution, that made me chase down my own hose solution, which I like much better. You know, that'd just be a small example of what I'm talking about. So on a positive note, on a negative note, I really had a good thing going. On a positive note, think I'm headed to find something possibly better. Maybe not cheaper, but we'll figure it out. But doing Ed's garage, doing the VinWiki garage was an eye-opener in how many awesome things and opportunities there are to not necessarily develop products from scratch as much as develop my process. You know, I've worked so hard to develop how do I deliver my detailing process to you, the end consumer. Now, how do I deliver an entire garage solution, not just one product at a time? That's what's got me waking up in the morning to chase that. But I'd say this car is turning out pretty nice. You know, I'm still not a huge fan of it, but it is fun, you know. It's a fun car. It'd be more fun if I could steer. Let's see, what else? The CrossFit gym is about to go into its own building. And so that's where you're gonna see some serious obsessing over building the other side of OGHQ. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. This is part of the reason why I haven't built my garage yet is, well, one, I keep spending all the money on different products on inventory. And then two, I really want to enjoy that process. And so I'm finding myself stressing out that I'm going to be moving, but I should be enjoying moving. So I just need to shut down some of the excess traveling that I'm doing right now for a while, figure out what HQ is going to look like. But we just hired 2 more people, one for the warehouse and one to help Kyle with technical support and design, you know, answering your questions that you have that are over and above what we answered. And so what I'm going to be working with my coach here today is the next step of getting the Kyles and the Bryces and my dad and these other people that work for me to make things more efficient and identify opportunities there. All right, I've got to wrap up drying this off real fast because I got to go get on that call. Man, this car looks so good in comparison to what it did when I first got it. I'm hoping it gives you a little sense of my style. You know, one of the things that we're running into now is the jobs that everybody's doing has gotten bigger. And so now what I need everybody to do is automate. Figure out ways to make things more efficient. Like for instance with Kyle, you know, he's getting the same question over and over again. Well, that should be an opportunity to identify how to answer that question before people have it. So that might mean an adjustment to the product, have me make a specific video around it that he could share, a number of things. Having a frequently asked questions section. And so how do we evolve and become more efficient? It doesn't mean just throw more humans at it. Now we'll hire when necessary, but it means how do we improve efficiencies to make the end user experience better and better without just sticking with the status quo of getting a phone line and sitting on the phone with people all day. How do we deliver to them? Because I don't want to frickin' talk on the phone. People don't, you know, like on products that I buy, usually. Now, if we're doing a $150,000 garage design and full layout, then yeah, we need to chat about it. Can't wait to put the new rear bumper on. I'll do that when the exhaust gets here. I'm not too worried about the rear bumper there because it's going to be coming off hopefully next week. There's a lot of things happening next week apparently. I tend to overbook. So that's the process there. We'll come back out after my meetings and wrap up this. We'll put the wolves on. Finish telling whatever stories I got to tell. Hopefully I won't be picking any more fights with anybody. I'm sure I'll be getting a call from Turtle Wax at some point here telling me to cease and desist. Or no. We've invested a lot into this silicon dioxide water.
a lot. We spent a lot of time coming up with a really clever name. So I'm sure you have. Okay. All right, I'll see you all in a few minutes. Oh, for you, it'll be a few seconds. But for me, it'll be a couple of hours. All right, I'm back 3 hours later. Let's finish the job. Let's get our door jambs done. So I guess that's a wrap on the Corvette Correction Protection Series. Next up for this car will be to finish the exhaust, which means I'll get to do the rear carbon piece, the rear, whatever you call it, the rear bumper piece. So we'll be putting that on here soon. And then I guess after that, once the headers are fixed, then we'll list it for sale. I'm waiting for a couple more of these interior parts here, so I'm waiting for that. Like this is new. Oh, I'll have a video coming up of cleaning and dialing in the seats, so I got to get that done. And but yeah, the car in general is starting to look the part of an Obsessed Garage type of car. So for that, I'm pleased. It would be nice if I could get it drivable. I can go out and beat on it a little bit. Take it on some back roads. Heck, maybe even take it to the mountains. That would be cool. I tell you what, it feels so much better. It's so much more enjoyable to clean when all like the cracks and all the jams and all of that stuff is clean. You know what I'm saying? Where it's not crusty like someone else's crust. Instead, it's mine, it's my clean. I'm just addressing all the little areas after each wash. But it takes a while to get there, especially when you got a bunch of cars. In fact, in many, many ways, I'd enjoyed the ability to, have one car that I get to spend all of my energy on. It's one of the disadvantages to being obsessed and having some means to buy a bunch of cars. It's not quite as satisfying because there's just too many cool things that I could be obsessing over. Great, lots of pollen already all over this thing. So let me clean the other jam and then we'll deal with the windshield. So on the glass, remember, I talked about prep being so important. So we want to really soak it down with some sort of alcohol type solution like panel wipe. I want to get it really clean and extremely well prepared so that it can accept. And that does not look good. There's a bunch of little dots on here. Yeah, I want to clean this better. And if I want the windshield to do well, I need to make sure I get everything off of it. And there's some funky little dots, probably from the install left over. So I got a little piece of clay here. Just kind of knead it. I'm gonna take this, a little bit on here. Man, this is not reacting very well. I'm going invisible glass. This new windshield just has a lot of funky stuff on it. I think a lot of it is the glue from the install. Okay, so I'm gonna take some Wolf's nano glass sealant. I don't have my normal applicator pad. I just had one of these laying around, but you can use whatever you got. So the rest of the windows already have this on it. Again, we just replaced the windshield on here. Man, this is a good move, I think, doing the windshield, because now makes the car look new. When the glass is treated and proper and not all scratched up and pitted, I think it, to me, makes the whole car feel nice, cleaner, and newer. You'll notice when you first put this on, super grabby. But then the second coat will go on much smoother. You don't need a lot of dwell time. Maybe a few minutes between when I put it on When we remove it, I'm gonna come all the way down to the edge here. This, just like all other products like this, more is not better. You just need coverage. You don't need to lay it on. Like loading this up with tons of product doesn't make sense. As long as it's moving, as long as you don't see any gaps in your application, that's all you need. Just revisit it a little bit every once in a while. What I should have done, I should have emptied the tank and put some clarity in there. All right, so that's been on there for 5 minutes or so. And now I need to wipe it off. It's always a lot easier to wipe off with a little bit of invisible glass. That's like the magic combo. It's a little spritz. The first application ever takes a little more effort. And then subsequent applications, let's say 9 months from now, 6 months from now, depending on how you use your wipers and whether you need to. But with that subsequent application, it'll be way easier to remove. But we're gonna do a second layer and you'll see how much easier it comes off. I do need to clean the inside of the windshield as well. I'll do that when I do the interior. I also figured out after everything dried out, yeah, using the color lock brush is not a good move on the fake Alcantara in here. So don't do that. All right, so that's a wrap for today's wash and talk. First wash of the completely corrected, protected Corvette. Some of the remaining little parts and pieces coming together so I can call it OG spec. I can call it my own. Just in time to sell it. So hopefully somebody buys it. I'm sure someone will. It's really going to be pretty sorted when it's all said and done. So anyway, thanks for watching. I know that some of you hate these videos, but most of you that are here like watching them. You know, we had just hit 200,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. And that was never my intent. I never had a thought that it would happen, but it's pretty cool to see it, see people that respond to what it is I'm doing here, which is playing in my garage with my cars, and then now it's become a business and become my life. Where on a Tuesday morning and afternoon, I can come out here and really dial in a process and then share it with others, and then others seem to respond. So. Thanks for watching. As always, stay tuned for more crazy. We'll have hopefully some driving videos of the Corvette coming up soon.